But no matter what you wanted to do, everything about it was just so captivating to me personally that I was in, no matter what, whether it was an audiobook, whether we could do it into a TV show or what, dude, I was just stoked.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Berger, author of Rock Bottom at the Renaissance, an emo kid's journey through falling in and out of love in and with New York City. And this is a Berger Joint, a production of Berger Media. I'm going to make this intro really quick because it's really just a sneak peek of the upcoming audiobook version of my mixtape memoir that is now available for pre-order exclusively on Audible. You can find the link in the description or in the comments, depending on where you're listening to this. And the audiobook officially drops April 27th, 2021. But it's available for pre-order now. If you see any other date, it's incorrect. April 27th, 2021 is when you will get the audiobook. But the paperback and ebook versions of the book are available now online wherever you get books and ebooks. The audiobook will be out April 27th exclusively on Audible, but don't worry about subscribing to Audible because when you do subscribe, you get a free credit for a book and you can use that on my audiobook. So you're basically paying the same thing. For those who are new to the podcast and the book, this book is about the lowest low of my major depressive disorder and my anxiety disorder. And it's about the music that got me through it. It features songs by bands like Jimmy Eat World, Bayside, Mayday Parade, The Wonder Years, The Dangerous Summer, Bright Eyes, Dashboard Confessional, Lisa Loeb, and more. And 50% of the royalties from this book, ebook, and audiobook are being donated to mental health charities and other organizations that are helping musicians and crew get through the pandemic. Last fall, I flew out to LA to chat with Tyler Posey about the book, so you're going to hear a little bit from that interview before you hear an excerpt from the book. But there's a lot more to hear, and I'll be releasing that over the next month. So subscribe to this podcast, or subscribe to the A Berger Joint YouTube channel, and follow me and A Berger Joint on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter so you won't miss any of it. You can also go to abergerjoint.com and sign up on my email list because the people on the email list hear about everything first, and they get special discounts on things, and they get exclusive video and audio content that nobody else is getting. So go to abergerjoint.com, that's abergerjoint.com, and get on the email list. Otherwise, all over social media, I'm Mikey Lee Rock, MikeyLeeRock, and you can find A Berger Joint all over social media at ABERGERJOINT. And I'm going to be posting more videos and more audio with Tyler Posey on those channels. Without further ado, this is Rock Bottom at the Renaissance, an emo kid's journey through falling in and out of love in and with New York City. Once again, available for pre-order now, exclusively on Audible. Find the link in the description. Use that link, pre-order it now, and get it as soon as it drops on April 27th.
But yeah, dude, I've been through it, and being out on the other side, it's super therapeutic to one, just like do it myself, like actually do the audiobook. But for people who either are on the flip side of it or on the other side or in the middle of it, it will be therapeutic no matter what, because you'll learn not to fall down this road. You'll learn the tools that you can use to get out of this, or you can just kind of like reminisce and be like, all right, that's how I used to live. Let's thank God I'm not like that anymore. Rock Bottom at the Renaissance, an emo kid's journey through falling in and out of love in and with New York City. Written by Mike Berger, narrated by Tyler Posey, A Berger Joint published by Berger Media, produced by Mike Berger and Kevin Dye, mixed by Kevin Dye. To the girl, and to all the bands that kept me alive long enough to find her. Introduction. Listen. If anything, I'm a music nerd. I'm not sure if I'd ever call myself a musician. In fact, it is because of my music nerdiness that I would never call myself a musician. I was a lead singer in 2 bands during a time span of 7 years, toured the country a few times, and even played a Coliseum in front of 15,000 people. Twice. While I always wrote my own lyrics, I never wrote music. I can play guitar, kinda. But it's been over a decade since the first time I picked one up, and I'm still not quite confident enough to perform solo in front of anyone except for girls I've really liked. And even then, it requires a good amount of alcohol and a bigger amount of emotional investment. So I'll never call myself a musician, but I do call myself a writer. When I was younger, I didn't quite understand what led me to playing music or writing lyrics. As I've gotten older and examined my experiences, certain puzzle pieces have come together and begun to form a picture that makes more and more sense with every jigsaw piece. I remember my dad playing records all the time when I was a kid. My parents divorced when I was 7 or 8, and when my brother and I would spend weeks at a time with my dad during the summers, I remember waking up to vinyl spinning in the morning. The Cure, Bruce Springsteen, Prince, and old country like Conway Twitty and Johnny Cash, and Patsy Cline. I was blessed with an upbringing in Texas and a dad with Oklahoma roots who found some musical enlightenment in the culture collision that 20-plus years of Navy service give you. Back then, I didn't know how much of an effect that would have on me, but today I know that's when it all began. I remember listening to those songs closely and letting their meaning really affect me. Maybe an 8-year-old mind can't exactly decipher Just Like Heaven, but I remember crying in the front seat of my dad's car while Conway Twitty's That's My Job played as he was driving me from Oklahoma to South Texas to return me to my mom's full custody after one of those summer trips. When you're a kid, your parents aren't people. They're just mom and dad. My dad was still trying to figure his life out back then, but to me, he was just a dad who wasn't close enough to his kids. Because he took that time, he has since figured himself out. It's been over 20 years, and my mom's still behind the curve. I always wondered if those songs helped him get through the lonely times when his kids were 1,000 miles away, or when another girlfriend, or in some cases another wife, didn't work out. My subconscious must have put my dad's connection to music together back then, because I began to see life through music. My dad always had the latest in stereo equipment, and he always took really good care of his records. I saw that music was important to him, and I guess something made me want to know why. For years, I have been the same way with my music. I get paid to write about it because I write about it with a passion that isn't matched by anything else, not even women. I'm maybe 5 years younger than my dad was when he and my mother divorced. Had I gotten married as young as he had, I definitely wouldn't have lasted as long. Dad's on wife number 4 now, and it looks like he finally got it right. I don't have kids to miss, but there are ex-girlfriends whom I loved and songs that make me think of them. Music not only gets me through those lonely times, those depressing times, but also the good moments. It was loneliness in high school that kick-started my writing. I didn't know it was what I would be doing for the next decade and a half. I started writing lyrics for my band. And this brings me to my first point. My lyrics sucked at first, but after writing songs for years, they got better. I don't expect this book to be gold, but no one would see it if I wasn't proud of it. Maybe in 10 years, I will say that my first book sucked. I'm telling you about my history and future and life of music because you should know your author before you read his work. For years, I have written songs, and I have written comedy for myself and funnier friends to perform. Although, this book probably won't be very funny. I've talked to my friends about a certain evolution many comedians go through. First, they joke about being lonely and never getting laid. Then, if they're lucky enough to rise in popularity and actually meet a woman who really does want a sense of humor, they'll get married. Then they have material about being married and never getting laid. Then, because a lot of comics are tortured men who are filled with demons, they get divorced and joke about being divorced and bitter, and never getting laid. The same is also true for records. No one wants to hear a great songwriter when they're in a happy relationship. I think it's safe to say that a lot of musicians, or the ones worth listening to, pick up a pen or an instrument because they were lonely and weren't getting laid. But an album does not necessarily tell a story from beginning to end. Rather, it tells what state of mind the songwriter was in. A comic's set doesn't tell a story from first joke to last. A good comedian maintains a steady voice throughout the set, so you feel like you know the performer. Or so the performer at least makes you feel like you know the persona that they want you to know. I remember one of my former bosses and I were talking about the Gaslight Anthem one day. We were both fans of the band, and he offered me his tickets to their show that night. He was a few years older than me, but had recently hit that point when life and or your body catches up to you and you just can't go to every show on a school night like you used to. I was a few years younger than him, and my professional life kicked off a little later than most. So, I was at a point when you still want to go to all those shows, but you're in an entry-level position and not making enough money to buy all the tickets. He was a great boss, and I'd like to think it's because I was a great employee that, on more than one occasion, this worked out in my favor. And to his credit, and in his defense, it was usually when certain bands played multiple nights in the New York City area, and the young punk inside of him would convince him to buy tickets to every night. It's how I discovered Quicksand, who were as good as he told me they'd be. It's how I got to see Bad Religion at Terminal 5. And it's how I saw the Gaslight Anthem for the first time, also at Terminal 5. We got to talking about our appreciation for the band, and he made a joke about how, in their songs, they seem to be listening to the radio a lot. Nobody listens to the radio anymore, he said. And that's when I realized that, for some reason, we demand that musicians, more than any other artists, be authentic. If we step away from an artist after a song ends, give it some distance, we might be able to accept that there's a bit of persona there. But when we're listening to a song, something in our minds makes us feel and think that this person singing to us is giving it to us. As Bryan Adams would say, straight from the heart. Shit, was that even real? It's the band's persona, I told him. When we watch a movie, we know that those characters aren't who the actors are in real life. Why do we demand different from our musicians? Is an artist's painting or sculpture a direct reflection of their personality? Yet Taylor Swift is painted as this vindictive monster who uses relationships for song ideas. When maybe she's just a storyteller who knows that some people need to hear these stories so they feel like someone else gets them. Are Brian Fallon and company dragging Maine in a 59 Impala convertible, rocking the coasters, hair slicked back, racing an old white Lincoln under the hot New Jersey summer sun? I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe they're just painting this picture, not of a specific time, but of a state of mind. And even if that picture never existed, isn't that the point? Putting that state of mind into a song on a canvas on these white pages makes it exist. It makes us feel like it could exist. For better or worse. If it's for better, then maybe it inspires us to strive for it. If it's for worse, like some of the stories in this book, real or not, then hopefully it has the same effect and helps us to avoid mistakes that would be too easy to make and motivates us to move further away from the ones we've already made. Does it matter whether or not certain things happen the way a writer, an artist, remembers or imagines or wishes they had? Or hopes they will, or knows they could have had they been unluckier or luckier? No matter what, the artist's state of mind when creating their art was true. And the state of mind you're left with after consuming the art is as true as it gets. No? So, forgive me. I am not a seasoned author. I'm a writer of jokes, songs, and critical essays. If you read all of those things, like listening to most albums, you will not find closure in the end. My only goal was to write something, get it on paper, and get it out to people. I wanted my first effort to exist so I can move on to the next. I'm not making preemptive excuses. I'm a pretty proud writer. I don't put something out if I think it's shit. So, what you hold in your hands now is something I am proud of. Some great writers had shitty first works. Some authors with brilliant first works could never live up to that debut. Fitzgerald, Harper Lee, Salinger. I'd like to find myself somewhere in the middle and give myself room to grow. Maybe one day I'll be a better writer and I'll write books with beginnings, middles, and ends. Maybe this book will have those things and I'll achieve my goal. Maybe I'll make people believe in something. I'm not sure if that's even what I want. I do know that I want to make people feel something. I had the same goal when I wrote songs, and I had the same goal when I got on stage and told jokes. And in that goal, I feel confident in this work. I'm a music nerd. I think in songs. Not like a musical in my head, but I think in song lyrics. Some people might think to themselves, the Bible says this about this situation, or that book I read says this, or maybe in principles of science, philosophy, or psychology. I think in song lyrics and live in an album world. Pop this one on the player and see what the writer was feeling. The last song might have nothing to do with the first song. One or two songs may be good enough to be a single, but they're not all supposed to be. Who knows where I'll be in life when it's time to write the next one, but I didn't hold anything back in writing this one. So, in reading it, you will know exactly where I was when I wrote it. Figuratively. The title is all you need to know where I was, literally.